We lead with this from Malawi. President Lazarus Chakwera tonight congratulating the Democratic Progressive Party's Peter Mutharika, who has secured a victory in the recent election.
Now, in his address to the nation, Chakwera expressed gratitude to Malawians for entrusting him to lead the country, saying he will forever remain thankful for their confidence as well as support.
Former President Mutharika is expected to return to power as the country is waiting for the final proclamation of results that are expected, by the way, within minutes.
Early tallies show the 85-year-old is surging ahead with over 60% of the vote.
Incumbent Lazarus Chakwera is the Malawi Congress Party's torchbearer, while Mutharika was the candidate for the Democratic Progressive Party. Well, let's speak further then about the elections in Malawi and this outcome that we're expecting to be confirmed within the hour. Bring in political analyst and associate professor of political science at the University of Malawi, Dr. Boniface Dulani. Dr. Dulani, you're joining us from Malawi this evening. Good to have your time as well on the SABC. So Mutharika's back now after he was defeated by President Chakwera in the vote held in 2019, which basically had the initial outcome annulled and was rerun. How significant would his return be?
Well, I think when you consider that 5 years ago, the former president lost by 58% of the vote to his successor, it is quite significant that this time around, the former president is also polling around the same number, the same share of the vote. So it is quite significant for Malawi's democracy that we have this turnover again.
And speak to us about those numbers. We're waiting for the official proclamation. It was set for 7 o'clock, so I'm expecting that it'll begin during our conversation. But what do we know about the tally so far? How big is the margin between these two parties?
Well, I think when you look at the results that have already been officially declared, as well as those from the districts that have also been received, we know that the former president is polling around 58% against 33% for President Chakwera.
And is a return to a Mutharika presidency after at least 5 years, is that the beginning of better times, better fortunes for Malawi?
Well, this is the third time actually in a row that we've changed the presidents in our elections. President Chakwera, it's fair to say, has been a disappointment for the many Malawians that voted for him in 2020. The economy has been in a very bad shape. So Mutharika's victory really is more an indictment of Chakwera rather than an endorsement of Peter Mutharika. So Malawians will be expectant, but I wouldn't be surprised if a few months down the road, they also start to experience the same problems that we've been having over the past couple of years.
So just on that note, if this election was basically a vote against Chakwera, rather than a massive show of confidence in Mutharika, who was a former president, in the vote, how much pressure then do you expect he's going to face from the electorate when you consider that the people of Malawi are dealing with worrying levels of unemployment? When you look at what the World Bank, for instance, has said, it said that Malawians, currently 3/4 of people in Malawi are living below the poverty line.
Well, I mean, you can also add to that Malawians have been experiencing really severe inflation, shortages of essential commodities. On election day, actually, people were still queuing for petrol. So these are the challenges that Mutharika will be inheriting from Chakwera. And you add there, I think, foreign currency shortages. These are not problems that will be addressed overnight. And then the government, the incoming government has also made a lot of promises, including removal of school fees, as well as expansion of the agricultural subsidy program, and also, expenditure for constituency development fund. Again, it's really a very, very small public base. So they have their way cut out, but Malawians will be expectant, and we'll see how things pan out.
And in terms of the plan, then, the manifesto put forward by Mutharika's party, are the plans therein going to be sufficient to change the economic fortunes of Malawians? I know there was talk when they were campaigning, for instance, of special allocations for women, young people, etc. That last bit is very important because Malawi is a majority young country. But are the policies and promises of this apparent incoming government going to be enough to turn things around, and how quickly can it happen?
Well, the promises are obviously popular, and that's what's gotten them elected. But what they didn't really specify in the manifesto, not only the DPP, in all fairness, but the other political parties too, is how they're going to finance these promises. Malawi, it has a huge, debt burden. We also are experiencing, I think, a lot of cut in donor aid, and Malawi is one, I'm sure, as you know, one of the most aid-dependent countries, and the cuts in aid, including, I think, the cut of aid from the United States, has had quite a huge impact already on the public purse and government's ability to deliver services. So, the promises are there, but how they're going to be financed is the million-dollar question.
Mm-hmm. And on Chakwera then, in his concession speech earlier today, he's already said that he remains committed to a peaceful transfer of power. That is significant when you consider what happened post the 2019 vote. The original result, which was in Mutharika's favor, annulled by the highest court in the land, and ultimately that's how a Chakwera presidency came to be. But at this stage, is there anything from the irregularities that have been raised in the last week that threatens a peaceful transfer of power, do you think?
I think, Chakwera's decision to come out openly and concede defeat really helps to ease the levels of tensions that we've seen over the past week. Yes, I think there have been accusations of some irregularities here and there, but look, an election is such a big thing that I don't think we can expect everything to be perfect. But the Malawi Electoral Commission has handled this election very professionally, and I don't see, I think, the Malawi Congress Party even pursuing some of the allegations that they've raised in court, or at least, I don't see them really winning as they did in 2020 over the 2019.
Dr. Boniface Dulani, really good to talk to you, political analyst and associate professor of political science at the University of Malawi.